Still
Always
will.
do Heather.
No, just one. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, here she goes. Yeah, just in time.
Did I know that?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting this evening. And I would ask Chief Kroll to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin by stating that our projector is not working this evening. So I asked Allison, what does that mean? She means nothing's working. But we do have virtual.
Yep, so we are broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. We do not have any virtual attendees right now.
Okay.
So as the public hearing is open, I'll let you know if anyone joins and if there are any questions.
All right, very good. Thank you, Allison. And we start out with the open podium. And of course, you just said we don't have anyone that is
In the room.
No virtual attendees.
in the
yet.
room. So and I don't know if there's anyone here from the public that has, other than all the fire things we're talking about tonight, if anyone had anything they'd like to talk about, yes, sir. Come on up here. You just introduce yourself and at the podium and yeah. And have you filled out the form for us?
No.
Oh,
I can't.
well, you go ahead and tell us what you're all about and introduce yourself. And
My name's Dave Barnwell.
Yep.
I live Walton Drive. I just had a comment about the building of the new town building.
Mhm.
I went through and saw the meeting and see that it's probably something that needs to happen, but I just wanted it to be known that I think that there's other places in the town that have buildings that are probably in just as bad a shape, i.e. the highway department's one of them. That's a pretty big pole barn. 25 guys working at 16 hours a day and ate their lunch in the middle of a shop, more or less, not even in their break room because of separation. The ventilation's bad. The secretary that works in that office works in a room that has had the same paneling on it since 1986. So I think, as a whole, I think there's a few places around here that probably could get some attention. I find it interesting that we use a lot of buzzwords about sustainability and comprehensive planning, but yet we're not taking care of the core things of this town, which are the buildings, the infrastructure to keep it running. But we can pass stuff, make sure things happen in a heartbeat to make sure we fill land full of solar panels. I think we should take care of our own stuff, what needs to get going, so we can make sure this town runs correctly, has all the equipment it needs to do it.
okay. Thank you, Dave. We've actually had conversations because obviously, real quickly, last 4 or 5 years, we've been looking at a new municipal building primarily for the reasons of the police station that's been in the same location since '85 in the elementary school. And our courts need to be more compliant. And this is really not ADA compliant and so on. And you're right, it's a good building and there's others that need help. And we've talked about, we need to look at things like the highway garage and such.
Yeah, we
So-
were just discussing that this go around for the budget. It's,
Right.
it's tough because, we don't want to, necessarily pit people within town government against themselves to say, the highway deserves something more than the police do. So, it's definitely something that's on our mind. We're absolutely not forgetting those guys. It's really important, but, we have an opportunity here with the new town hall. And again, getting the police into a building that makes sense for them, that fits them, at this point is something that we're pretty focused on. And, the highway department will absolutely get it to do one day. Just have to figure out how to set that all up in the budget.
I'm sorry, I just think that you put all that money into that police station also, and now you want to move it. And I hear that you're saying that, maybe this isn't the time, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You're saying you don't have to pay anything for this new building and it's a lease. Well, then my kids are gonna be, what happened, or how's that affect them paying that? You dangle a nice shiny carrot that somebody built you a beautiful building, and then my kids are paying for it down the road, whether, i.e., we don't own that building, it's leased, they can kick us out. We have no equity in that. That's really what we want to do. We should be sustaining ourselves. Why are we not looking for land? There's enough places around here. There's got to be places that understand that this is for the better of the community. Whatever. decisions in the last couple of years when we should have been taking care of things like this. Why are we putting good money into a place we rent for the police department and now we're gonna move it? I gave you that money. I want you to use that money wisely. I don't want you to use it, not use it wisely and then move them a second time. It doesn't do any good for them.
Well, Dave, those are all good points, and we're going to be addressing all those as we move forward when we start to have more public comments and public meetings. So, but thank you for your input. Appreciate that.
May I just say something?
Sure, Heather.
So, thank you for coming and speaking. I wanted to just address the fact that we had a very brief conversation with the Barton Legitis, who was working with us on the comprehensive plan, had a brief conversation with the heads of departments to do a SWOT analysis. And I am not sure, I have not read the notes yet from that to understand if any of the conversations about the space were included in that. But that is a priority and part of the process to understand exactly what's going on with the space. I've been to the highway department, so I know exactly what we're talking about for where people eat in Janet's space. And I don't understand a lot about operations, what needs to be, but I do rely on Rob and really anyone who knows the space well to talk a little bit about that and things like OSHA compliance and all the new standards for things. We need to make sure that we're going beyond compliance. So I just want you to know that there's no such thing as a done deal, and there's no leaving behind urgent needs, I think, in the process. When it comes to the lease, I just want to clarify something you brought up. As I understand it, the intention is lease to own.
Although we are starting to negotiate a lease. Nothing's on paper yet.
Well, and it's not even
completely-
decided that we're moving forward with the
Yeah,
project
exactly.
entirely at all. But the concept is lease to own. The idea is not to put any sort of debt burden on the community. That's why it's attractive. We're not taking out any bonding. Our colleagues in fire and in the villages have had to take out debt to make repairs or to upgrade facilities or build facilities. This is a different process entirely. And so I just want to clarify that. And yeah, those are the only 2 points I just wanted to share.
And that's
thank you.
why I pointed out the road. I know we're gonna have many conversations down the road on this and meetings, and these are all concerns that we've heard from the neighbors and so on, all throughout the town. So believe me, you won't go unheard. So thank you. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to speak on as far as the open podium and town business? No? Okay then. All right, before we move on to the approval of the minutes, John, you wanted to make a statement this evening?
Yeah, so last year, we, for the first time, did a land acknowledgement on the meeting following Indigenous Peoples' Day. So I just wanted to do the land acknowledgement again. The town of Manlius has a rich history that we all work diligently to preserve and recognize every day. It is important for us to be fully considerate of those peoples originally living on this land, those that were removed by force to make way for others. We would like to officially acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Onondaga Nation, a member of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and honor their stewardship of the land. As we look to building our comprehensive plan, Manlius commits to learning deep the history of the land and its resources, ensuring Indigenous voices are a part of the conversation. We will be partnering with local organizations and activists to center these cultural traditions and knowledge. Lastly, we acknowledge that Indigenous struggles are not only a part of the past, but also a part of our present moment. This statement is meant to set us on a path forward rather than trying to write a historical.
Very good. Thank you, John, for your update there. So, and we move on to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes September 22nd.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd be glad to make a motion to approve. Yes, did we get it? Yeah.
Yeah, we got
We got it. They were in the. yeah.
Yep.
For September 22nd.
Yes, John.
I'll second.
Oh, all right. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Excellent. All right, and item 5, approval of abstract number 19.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 19 in the amount of $348,796.75. This time it is not the highway department. This time it's the health insurance.
Health insurance.
And I'll second that.
Second, all in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, and we'll move on now to the, we're going to have the Manlius fire contract discussion on the public hearing now, and as I mentioned, that we won't be able to see it on the screen, but actually, if you have your phones, you can probably find it on our website, you know, and follow along. I did it the old-fashioned way, and I printed it out. So, but Elaine, do you want to present, or want the Mayor Laurel to give a presentation?
Yeah, I'll just run through the slides, and if you want to add anything, feel free.
That's perfect.
I will share, I'm gonna share my screen on here. So our virtual attendees will be able to see the pretty graphics. Can you see it? Does it work?
Did you send it?
You're
out?
What?
You sent this out. Fire presentation?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, perfect. Open that up and I'll turn it on so everybody can see.
Perfect.
Not great.
Okay, so the Manlius Department, Fire Department, so I created these slides last year to kind of just provide the information. So this is kind of an update to them. I don't really want to read the slides, but.
You can give highlights.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. It's highlight the numbers.
Okay, so the first one's just first introducing the Manlius Fire Department. So we contract with the Manlius Fire Department to for our fire protection district, which includes I think it's a fire coverage includes 27 square miles, and it covers the village of Manlius, the town of Manlius, and a section of town of Pompey as well. So on the fire slides, I just included some of the calls they deal with last year. Their calls I know were affected by COVID. So I did include 2019. I believe that numbers are more average this year. Then I of course want to highlight our volunteers with the village fire department. They have 12 career firefighters as well. And of course, always say thank you for your service. And then it's just into the budget. So I just show kind of like what the town, we contract with the town, so I show the amount of the contract over the past 5 years, just to give that brief overview. The town section of the budget with fire and EMS, oh, I cannot get the numbers, but it's 1.4 million. And yes, you can see that on the slide.
Yep.
How am I doing?
Doing great.
Okay. And so then I just break that down so everyone can kind of see where that money goes. And thank you to the village, of course, for sharing all the information. And yeah, it includes their operating expenses, their capital expenses. The revenue this year was because they sold the fire station, one of them. And then because I did do these slides last year, I thought it would be nice to show the year to year, so you can kind of see what the expenses, the operating expenses for the fire was in 20. Okay, so their budget runs from 2020 to 2021. Our budget runs from 2021. Confusing. So this just kind of shows the year to year, side by side. And then they break down their ambulance operating expenses. Again, some of their operating expenses, their capital, and the revenue is billing for ambulance. And then again, I just show, what that looked like last year versus this year. That way, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to bring those up. You have questions?
Well, I just noticed that it looks like, and Paul, I'm sure you can jump in on this. It looks like the benefits was the increase than anything else in the budget, right?
Yeah, that's usually where it is. And then I did break down the tax rate, just to give an example of what you're paying for fire service. This is just for the town of Manlius. Versus 2021 to 2020, what it potentially would be in 2022. And again, to show what the contract includes, it's everything in the red. And it's, right, the village would pay through their village taxes. And then, of course, their apparatuses. Thank you for providing me pictures, that's great. And then, of course, we always want to call out, you know, if you are interested in volunteering with the Manlius Fire Department, they have a great website, go there and sign up. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I thought we would do this and then we'd open up the public hearing after the presentations, if that's okay. So go ahead if you wanted to add anything, stuff right up there.
Not much changes, you know, right now, fire service. You know, calls that fluctuated a little, a lot of that's because there's issues going on in the county right now. Really, there's issues going on in the state, but it's affecting our county, so ambulances, ours, the villas are all gonna say the same thing. I think that we're running to places we've never gone before, sometimes leaving our territory unprotected. Both, not only EMS, but firewall. Leave our territory to go to the city or outskirts of the county west of here. It takes our staffing levels for fire go down seriously. So there's a lot of stuff that the chiefs are working on now, and we're kind of leaving it in the hands of our chief, and he couldn't make it tonight. But our chief, the chief, and Manoa's, both their chief and their EMS officer are working to try to solve some of these issues with the county and the state. It's going to take time, but it's not only putting a burden on the amount of calls we're running out of our territory, but it also puts a bigger expense on us because we're going to areas where we're not getting anything back. So it makes it harder for us, but you know, hopefully it'll get straightened out. Things are getting back to normal as far as recruitment's back. Go out to Manlius now, you see signs up all over. This will be our second. We do a spring and a fall recruitment. We did real well in the spring one. We're hoping to do well in the fall. The thing about the fire service now is that the average length of volunteers stay now. It used to be, could be 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's now 40 years. So it makes a big difference that you spend a lot training these people and then you have to either walk out, move, or go somewhere else. But we draw people in and people leave. So the thing is, it's pretty good balancing act. You'll always see us somewhere between 70 and 80 people, volunteers. And our volunteers are all trained volunteers. It's not any type of just be a member and show up to the events. This is, you've got to be trained and you've got to go to conference and stuff like that. So we were able to get our boot camp for our kids back on track this year, which is a big draw. And we found out that the people that were in the first set of first couple of years of our boot camp are now, a lot of them are now members of our department. That's awesome. We've got other ones that were in our boot camp that aren't old enough to be members, but they're in our Explorer group. And we've got ones that come back and are junior instructors that help at the boot camp and stuff now. So the outcome of what the boot camp was set up for is working. And, I think this year might have been down because of COVID, but we normally draw about 60 people into the boot camp, and it's a week long, and it works out well. You know, within a couple of days, the following year, when registration was out, within a couple of days, we're full. So, you know, we're working closely with our neighboring departments with training. We're working closely in purchasing, which I know that Elaine, you and Sarah said, we know that some of our purchasing is done from bulk now, even equipment. So to save money. And so it worked with the ambulances, so they took it a little farther. The chiefs took it a little farther, decided to try doing something with the bigger equipment, and it's working. So at least for now, it's working. We hope it continues to. So, you know, I think we do the best we can. And we do it the biggest thing is we do our job. They do, a lot of them, so we do our job. You know, and I don't hear any complaints. So, and they're dedicated and they do the work. And that's what we ask them. If you didn't get an opportunity to, and if you haven't seen it, this year we got the first phase of our memorial done in time for 9/11, and we're very proud of it. And we're kind of worried we weren't going to get it all first phase done, but we did.
So I wanted to comment to you, I got a chance to go by it at night. It is quite lovely.
It's nice. Phase 2, we started planning and purchasing for phase 2. We've got a purchase minus. Phase 2 is going to be for our line of duty desks and for our past, present, future members. And also we'll be putting up more flags and stuff like that. But that's going to be another big expense to tackle. We're raising funds for that. So my pitch is, if you would like to donate, we're more than welcome to take it. But that's gonna, right now, the whole first part of the phase 1 was through donations. And phase 1 cost us a little over 70 grand. We figure phase 2 is gonna cost us at least 50 grand. So, but we feel that we owe it to those people that gave their lives, especially the firefighters in 9/11. And we also mounted the bell at the same time that came off one of the original fire stations. And phase 2 will be to honor not only the people that we've lost in the line of duty, but also the members that have given anywhere from 4 years up to 50 years or more. And so that's important to us. That's what feels important. So if anybody's got any questions, I think I probably did everything, but
Mary, I
I
just
gotta
have one.
leave, I always leave a little more time for my host.
Oh, yeah. You're doing pretty good. I only have one real quick question. I know I ask you every year. What does it equate to in the percent? I see it went up slightly. Do you know what the percentage was? Oh, you had that in?
It's from last year, the change in the tax rate is.
Well, yeah, the percentage of increase is what I was looking at. I didn't put my calculator.
Isn't it on there?
I mean,
I was trying to find
What is
it.
it on there?
so it's like it's $13 increase.
Yeah,
for
it's not a
this
big
family.
one.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if you, that's all I had.
In the tax rate, it's 0.0691.
Yeah, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
Good. And before I open it up to the public
Karen has-
hearing, do you have any questions? Yeah,
Mr.
Karen.
Mayor, how far are you heading out of town with these diversions? I mean, this is a serious problem.
Well, one of the biggest problems is we go over one of the city a lot.
Mhm.
That's a big problem, especially because city, going on ambulance call city can be a little different. Activity depending on what part of the city you're going to.
But then are they sending you?
But
to
we're going,
Utica?
oh yeah, we've been to Onondaga Hill, Marcellus, Liverpool,
It's going on, it's happening to everybody.
South Bay. Yeah, we're going all over. We go to Chittenango constantly. We ran to Chittenango, I think it was last week, the weekend before, and one day we ran down there 3 times.
Yeah, see, I don't think people realize what you're doing and what a strain it is on the staff and.
And then the other issue is the length of time we have to wait at the hospital.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And that's one they're trying to resolve right now, but, you know, with everything going on, that's a tough nut to crack,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
Mayor Worrell, one question about the data around that. Can you share with us in an email or something, some of the statistics so that we can start watching and just, you know, like you just said, X number of calls to Chittenango, like last month, here's an example of what the diversions look like. Anything like that for us would be more helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. I don't know if Chief Mildred can just give my chief could if he was here, but he can give you an idea of that.
Yeah, no, so
We can let you know.
Yeah.
What the.
it'd be helpful because we're going to understand the bigger picture that you're talking about. Can I also make a point of, sometimes when we talk about going into the city, there's this unspoken thing that we say, and we kind of giggle a little bit. And I want to be clear about what we're talking about. You could probably clarify. Do you mean going into the city because the roads are rougher, there are more potholes? Are we talking about the fact that there could be violent crime?
Yes. thank you.
Okay,
Combination thereof.
right.
There
Just
are,
because,
yeah.
just, like, let's just say it versus
Well,
like the
first of all,
the things.
any
you
of
say.
these trips outside our district, whether it's us, Fayetteville, Manila,
Yeah,
the burden on our personnel,
yeah,
because it takes them away for a more extended period of time than they normally are on a call.
Yeah.
Any type of diversion from the hospital or any type of length of stay at a hospital takes them out of our territory. And not only does it take them away, if we're running 2 ambulances out on a call during the day, Fayetteville's running their 3 out, Manila's running their ambulances out, then we get a fire call. We usually back each other up. We get a fire call. Who's backing up who?
Right.
You know, so you're getting an ambulance. You could be, I think that, last time I heard, the chief of the city of Syracuse said that one of the ambulances that they had for calling the city came out of Central Square, and I believe another ambulance came out of Oswego. Now, would you like to have one of your family members wait for an ambulance to come out of Oswego?
no, I wouldn't.
And so the thing is, at some point, something's gotta give.
Yeah.
And so I know that the 3 mayors in our association, we have discussed it. We discussed it at the state. I just recently discussed it at NICOM conference in Albany. So, you know, we're not the only ones. It's happening all over.
Yeah.
So it's
Thank
just
you.
funny how it was quiet before,
Mhm.
somewhat. And when I brought it up at NICOM, you would believe the amount of mayors and stuff. Wow, we're having that same problem. That if I hadn't brought it up, they probably wouldn't have said anything. But it became a huge discussion. Yeah, something's got to be done. So
And one of the other issues, and I don't mean to speak all on it.
you usually like. to.
I know I usually like that. When you have a diversion too, what's happening is they shut them hospitals down because they got 4 or 5 hours. They're sending our ambulance, the next call might be Albany.
Yeah.
Might be sending them to Oneida. Now what happens when our guys are up there?
Wow, it's a long time.
We're getting diverted everywhere. Could be going to Watertown,
Is this?
Brian, I mean.
Well, you have to
can
worry
speak
too,
to that.
because when you say because of the dangers, yeah. I mean, we get called to a call or Fayetteville or whoever, it's called to call the city to shoot you. Then you don't know what the outcome's gonna be there when you're there trying to handle the patient.
Mhm.
You don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, I'd sort of like to sort of circle back here to the budget part of it. I mean, believe me, I know we could talk about this all night. I know Chief in the back has been, I know you want to say things too, but we're gonna hold up. But I'd like to move on with the budget right now, and unless the board has any questions regarding that, I'd like to open it up the public hearing. In order to do that, I just need a motion to waive the.
So I'd like
reading
to
of the-
make a motion so I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice for the public hearing on contracting with the village of Manlius for fire protection and EMS services.
Sounds very
Better.
good.
Perfect, yeah. Usually it's a lot longer.
I will second that.
Okay, we're all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, now I need a motion to open up the public
So
hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing regarding contracting with the village of Manlius for fire protection and EMS services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So open up to the public. If anyone from the public has anything to say or regarding the Manlius fire protection budget, I just ask that you, again, at the podium, introduce yourself.
We do have virtual attendees.
And virtual attendees too, if they have.
They would use the Q&A function and just write in their questions. So I'll let you know if anything.
Oh, all right, that's good. Thank you. I almost forgot about the virtual attendees. We're used to seeing everybody up here. you know, so,
I know.
And nothing that you've seen there. so-
No questions.
Okay. And no one here. So I need a.
So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second it.
Wait, before we close it,
Yes.
I have a question. Could you tell me a little bit about how people often will want to know, why is it that, I'm in the fire protection district that doesn't seem to correspond with my location? they might ask a question of how the districts function. Do you have advice for the way you'd like to communicate? Communicate that. So Fayetteville is an obvious one that's going to have Fayetteville, but maybe somebody who's maybe somebody who is not in an area that's on the line, or so to speak. How do you describe the district for folks?
Well, the districts are set up, they were established many, many years ago. Many years. And the change of district is. If somebody told me, if they give me the location, I tell them.
Yeah.
District.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, I don't really know what you're trying to.
Well, I think that's just that I think people think, oh, it sounds a little arcane and they want to understand why, but if we can at least give them the information, which we do, which one they're in, and we do that, but I guess they just want to understand and just get a sense of how it all works. So your websites are really helpful for that. Thank you.
I think too, maybe we could have our legal counsel explain how the fire protection districts.
Well, I mean, if you look at the second slide for the Manlius Fire Protection District, you'll see that.
Yeah.
Manlius is in the village of Manlius, where the fire protection comes out of, is at the center of that district. So I think that was what was intended when they created the fire protection districts. I wasn't around either. But when they created them, it looks like, if you look at each individual district, the villages were contemplated as the center, or as center as possible in those fire protection districts, so that they can service the people in the town of Manlius outside of those fire districts in the most economical and convenient way possible. But why this street is in the Manlius Fire Protection District versus the Fayetteville Fire Protection District? Somebody had to set up the district lines, and that's how they set them up. And I'm sure it had to do with population at the time too, and making sure population centers were equally distributed.
And I recall the story from Denmere Chef, I believe it was, and designed the ad valorem way of setting up how it was going to be spread out between each of the percentages by each of the different districts as well. And that's going back way past Phil. So,
Yeah, that's for sure.
yeah. So thank you. All right, so
Rob has a
I think what
thought.
makes it confusing,
yeah,
a lot of it, I think that's where Heather was going, is that mailing addresses may not necessarily
Yeah.
coincide
Irrelevant, right.
with the districts.
Exactly.
So I think that's
For a
confusing.
new resident.
Because
Yeah.
like part of Fremont is in East Syracuse, but yet it's under Manaus Fire District.
Exactly.
Pompey is under Pompey, be under a mailing district in Pompey, but it'd be covered under. Manlius.
yeah.
So,
Believe it or not, Pompey's under Lafayette
yeah,
and Manly.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Delphi Falls is under Manly.
So that makes it a little more confusing.
People don't understand Fayetteville, New York, 13066 only identifies what post office.
Right. It was
And that's the
actually, yeah.
easiest way to describe it to people.
It's great. I think I spoke to a person last year who was, felt like they were closer to the Manlius Fire Department, even though they got Lafayette services. I remember they said, I'm closer, that's my fire department. Maybe they worried about response time, which they don't have to worry about on the whole, but that was the specific question I got from someone.
Good question. And I think we had a
motion and a second.
motion first and second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. All right, very good. Now, what we can do is, if we're good with the numbers and we've had a chance to all look at them, we could vote to accept the Manlius Fire Protection District budget for
The contract.
the contract. Thank you, sorry.
Authorize the supervisor to sign the contract. Right.
Okay, so you want to do each one at the time?
We could do it individually, or we could do it all at the end of the meeting. At the end of the, what do you think?
Right now.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
if we're gonna do it, might as well do it in sequential
All
order.
right, all right. I will make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Manlius Fire and EMS Protection District for the 2021-22 year.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. you're free to go.
Supervisor, quick question.
Yes.
We did Manlius first, and it was
Yes.
the 640. We did that on purpose.
Yeah.
When I was not here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We
You
just
got
had to
it.
do some
Got
work
it.
adjusting.
Perfect. We'll do.
Yeah, so now we're
next.
gonna do Manila.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I even had to tell her the name. She goes, what? All right, so, yeah, no, so now we'll, before we open up the public hearing, we'll have Elaine and Mayor Brazil discuss the Manoa budget and the contract as well. So, how you want to do
Before you get into your
Yeah.
slide presentation and everything.
it? Sure.
I'd just like to say a couple words about everything that's going on right now in the fire and EMS industry. Paul hit on it, and we're all affected, we're all feeling it. Mark Olson's leadership and experience, he got a hold of fire chief in East Syracuse, along with Mayor Walsh. We had a meeting, I think it was a month ago, between the three mayors. Mayor Walsh couldn't make it, but the fire chief was there, and to talk about the fact that we're in a really severe crisis. And people have to be aware of that. You're hearing it on the news and everything else, but we're on the verge of a major crisis in this county. The answer to it, I don't have. I have some ideas, but the main thing was, I've been on conference calls with Senator Sturpey, the governor's office. We've all been looped in. At one point between, 3 weeks ago, and all the hospitals were shut down. We were running patients to Oneida. We were ready to run a patient to Rochester. And the governor was ready to sign that the National Guard would come in to take over. Right now, the city of Syracuse has no contract for the last, 3, 4, 5 years with AMR. They don't have a contract with them. AMR is in the business. They are a company that makes money. And they're hurting big time. They can't handle what they have. And God forbid they say, we're done, and walk out. Then it's a catastrophe. Because right now, we're covering AMR. We get to the hospitals, there's waits that last forever, so we're hung up in the hospital. I mean, a couple weekends ago, I looked at all the ambulances we have in service, and we had one left in this town. We have 7 ambulances in this town, and we're all over the place. Salve, we got a call on Burnett Ave for a heart arrest at Dollar Store, way up in the north side. I mean, we're all over. Salve, just like Mayor Worrell said, and you'll hear the same from Mayor Olson. So I just want everyone to realize the situation we're in, and it's dire. We're full staff. We're running 2 ambulances now, and just real quick, this is Ryan Amen. He's the head of our ambulance service. Our chief, Matt Verity, and my deputy mayor, who's in charge of the fire department, John Champagne, and of course, Lisa DeVona, who runs the village. I just, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware. It is really a dire situation. Everything you're hearing nationally, locally, sometimes I don't think people really realize what's going on. And God forbid we have to run someone that's in dire needs to get into a hospital, and we're running them to Rochester. I mean, now the hospitals are on what do they rotate? They're doing every other hospital is taking over, but that doesn't solve the problem. That's just a Band-Aid right now. And the city of Syracuse doesn't have an answer. We've tried to come up with answers. I mean, we've looked at, should the 3 of us sign an executive order saying we're not going to leave our town? But I can't in good conscience do that, because we have a fire station in Fremont, and just a block away is the town of DeWitt. And if someone went down in the town of DeWitt just a block away and we didn't go, I can't live with that. So I don't know what the answer is, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware of it, because it is a major concern. And with that being said, let's get into the budget.
Yeah.
A couple of things, well, I'm sorry, a couple of things on your first slide. I have some numbers there that need to be updated.
Which one?
Your first slide is the one with the number of calls and everything we've done.
Mhm.
So you have, I have 2021's calls.
Oh, yeah, I didn't include 2021.
Oh, okay,
Only because we just haven't finished the year.
right.
What are they?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Well,
you've got-
2021 right now, year to date, we're at 1,405. And if you look at that compared to what we did all last year, it was 1,391. And once again, we're going out to Madison County constantly down Route 31, the town of Sullivan. We're all over the place out there, Chenango, East Syracuse, wherever we have to go, we go. And once again, it's a domino effect for all of us. We're out of our area, if Fayetteville's around, they have to cover us, and it just ripples on through. But, yeah, our calls are way up, and as far as fire calls this year, year to date are at, where are we here? Well, in 2020, we had 434. Where's that, Matt, the number for this year so far?
For this year through the end of September, you were at 407.
Yeah, so we're at 407.
That's fire.
And, you know, we're just 5 months into well, we're 10 months into the year, but
5 months
if you
into
look
your
at our
year.
budget, you know, we're 5 months into our budget. But yearly, yeah, we're way ahead of ourselves. So anyways, you can take it from there.
Okay, sure. So, again, this is an update from last year. And we just show, like, again, Manoa covers us on the northern, maybe? Sure.
Yeah.
Part, and they have approximately 60 volunteers, and we want to thank them, of course, for their service. And then here's, of course, the numbers for the past 5 years. It shows the town share. This would just be the contract with the town and between the town and the village. And then it shows the numbers for fire, EMS, and then the total. And then this year, for both of them, the total for the town would be $1.1 million. There's some more numbers in there. Okay. I'm rounding down. And then, so then we can, again, we just break it down. Or Manoa, of course, the village of Manoa breaks it down between the fire operating expenses. And so they have the operating expenses, the capital expenses, and then your total for fire. Oops. No, that's fine. Okay. And then from just again showing the difference from last year to this year, and I know there was some different increases between those budgets. Usually Manoa is our smaller contract. This year it's going up a little bit, a good amount. And some, I don't know if you want to explain some reasons for that.
Well, you know, once again, you know, this budget is something we're already factored through. And, you know, we do have some increases that have come up, but, you know, back in March and in February, when we were working on the budget, and Sarah and Lane were at our meetings on March 4th with these gentlemen and Lisa, and saw our tentative budget. We explained, you know, all these things to them. And I don't know what the procedure is after that, if they come back to inform you what's going on, because that's the time we need to talk about numbers and what we can do. You know, if there's a way to purchase things on, you know, spread it out over 5 years, or just buy it for this year and do that kind of thing, because that's when we're setting up our budget. So with that being said, you know, Sarah also was at our public hearing for our budget approval and everything. So I would assume this board's aware of all our expenses and what we've done to increase them. We had to buy the air packs. Those air packs are over 9 years old. We were trying to maintain them and everything we can, but it got to a point we had to get new ones. big increase you see there is purchasing those air packs, which are bought, paid for, and then used right now.
Do they have a normal lifespan of about 10 years?
What is the latest file?
Files is 15. And it's like anything else, if you keep it to the
Yeah.
very end, your maintenance cost goes up and then you try to sell them.
Yeah, and that was, I think, the biggest increase, because the overall increase is about 50% of the overall
Right.
contract that we pay. And so was there was no plan to save over 10 years to
Well-
replace those, or was it, what happened that it was a 50% increase to the budget?
Well, the air packs started coming up over the years. If you go back to last year's budget, just for an example, we bought our new engine. And we took $100,000 we had in our reserve at that point to put towards that engine to lower the cost for the town and the village on purchasing that engine, $100,000. We put money in our reserve. We put 30,000 into the reserve from revenues that we received from selling equipment and doing different things. So we constantly have that reserve to help back us up at the end of the year. So as things come up like this. So at this point, they were coming up and we decided, and we had the discussion with you guys, and we just decided to put it all in this time.
So that will come back down potentially next year, or would
Yeah,
you?
yeah, that's all bought, like I said, we purchased them and they're in the budget. That's the line item, that's probably the biggest one in the budget. I mean, there's other things in the budget. We hired a caretaker, which we had discussions with you too, on the caretaker. And it's a full-time caretaker, not a mechanic. At the time when you guys were at our meeting, we were thinking on moving our mechanic more into a caretaker/mechanic position. That really didn't work out. And since then, he left and went to a different job. So we don't even have a mechanic now. But back then, we didn't know that, but we increased. If you look at the vehicle repairs, that was increased because we knew the fire equipment wasn't going to be maintained by our mechanic any longer. So that was one of the other things that went up, another $25,000. And what else we got? Our contract with Waves went up a percentage, went from 3, it was 2%, and then this year it was 3%.
And you're stepping another rate this year?
Well, when we get into budgets in February, we'll talk to Waves and see where we're at with all that.
I know
One of the
calls are
things-
going up, so
Pardon me?
you said calls are going up, so.
Yeah, and one of the things too is that we're doing, that increase shows is, well, that increase doesn't show it, but we started running our second ambulance because we're so busy. And that isn't in the contract, so we've been doing that on like a per diem. When we run it, we have to staff it, so we're paying what that costs to run it for that day. And then, of course, the revenues hopefully will make up the difference. So that isn't in the contract, which will be next year when we go back to Waves for our contract, that we're gonna want to run 2 rigs all the time. Right now, we're doing it on a trial basis, and it's definitely paying for itself, and it's worth having our second rig out there.
Hey, Bill, Rich, just for clarification, though, I mean, John, you mentioned a 50% increase, but that was in the equipment, but the overall was 38 or thereabouts, the net, I guess. But
Right.
Overall.
Overall was, okay, because I didn't want to get the wrong impression that
Yeah.
that it's a 50%.
But that's still
It's
large.
like
Yeah, it's higher.
$125
definitely
per
higher than
household,
normal.
yeah.
Yeah.
How much is it?
It's like $125 per household, an assessed value of $200,000.
Really? Just for this, so $125,000 per.
Or $125 a
$125.
household, yeah.
So Bill, I
Increase,
guess,
yeah.
quick question on the air packs. So going forward, I guess, is it every 9 years that they come?
Yeah.
And there's so many that each time that you have to purchase?
Well, I mean, the last one we had was 12 years.
Oh.
These were over 9. Yeah. So, and through all the regulations with ANSI and OSHA and everything, heck, they're telling us
I was changing.
when to get rid of this
Yeah.
equipment. We could have turnout gear that's brand new, but after it gets 10 years old, you gotta get rid of it. It's outdated. No one's ever used it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the rules we're playing with. You know?
So I mean, I think we don't want to over debate this, but I think that we're looking at ways to group purchase over time, just for all of you to be thinking about ways to level off so that, I mean, theoretically, this will go right back down by that same 100,000 next year because you're not buying air tanks, but that's hard on the taxpayers. So just thinking about that.
But also just hearing the number of calls increasing too, that's wear and tear on the equipment too. So it does require, if the same general trend is happening across the departments, it's good to work together in understand the capital expenditures, but also how overall the service needs are trending. Right.
Yeah,
Like I
really,
said,
if you look at the last 5 years, I mean, it's like each year, it looks like it's come down.
Yeah, I mean, we've been steady this year. There's a lot of different things that did all at once. But one of the things that my frustration, and it's not really with you guys, but it's just that, we're on a fiscal year, June 1st to May 31st. You guys are on an annual.
Yeah.
By the time I'm getting here right now, we're 5 months into this budget. That's why we have you at our meetings in March. Tell us at that point, hey, it's gonna be a big hit on us.
This was a closed, wasn't it a bit closed before? There was a lot of, I mean, I feel like Sarah and Elaine have done
Well, I'm not trying to.
I feel like I jumped in to try to make sure there was a lot more conversation than it had happened before.
Well,
So we're getting a handle, I think.
well, that's not all true. That's not really truthful either, because before with Nick and John, we did those kind of things where they said, hey, can you split that 100,000 or 200,000 up and put it over 5 years? That's going to be a big hit all at once. So we were doing that before. So, and I'm not trying to throw anyone on the bus, but I'm just saying that's the time you got to do it.
Yeah, it would be great if we were aligned on our years. That would be ideal.
Well, yeah, but I'm
We
just
all want
saying,
that.
we're working hard to put this budget together in a timely fashion. We have to have it together by the 1st of April. And you guys are there. You're welcome to all our work sessions and everything. We're not hiding the thing.
Well, just moving forward, I think like a 10% increase is probably
Well-
like an upper cap. That I feel like we could all agree that if any contract that we have goes up by 38%,
Well,
that's tough to deal with in any budget.
Well, that's true, but that happened, obviously, when we had a fire station, a couple of them over the last 12 years since I've been here. And we did see larger increases than that. So, I mean, it's not unusual, it does happen, but the circumstances are what dictate why that happens usually.
So we have that understanding that that's a shared goal, then it's understandable to have the conversations we need to have. But if it's a shared target, then that would be helpful to have. And if it's not that number, it could be another number. It doesn't have to be dictated at this.
Maybe we should have this public hearing in March.
That's a good idea.
I mean,
Yeah.
we'd all be,
Actually,
we'd all be
Budget
going
sooner
on
the
saying,
better.
We have had.
before we even, go forward and adopt the budget.
Oh, that'd be great. If you could join us next year, we could do a public hearing here. for
I
the-
mean, whatever you want to do.
We've
but
talked about that.
What I'm trying to say is,
Yeah, we've talked
We
about
have had.
what I'm trying to say is that this is what it costs to provide you the service that you contract with us for. And this is our bill. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying and all the other stuff, but all that kind of discussion really needs to be happening in March or February, not now. So
Mary Brazil, how are you doing recruiting?
we're doing great.
Are you?
Improvements
I
up.
mean, it was slow for a while, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
With
COVID
the
started to pick
situation
up.
going on?
I think we've taken in probably 5 in the last couple of months, and we're actually just starting a new system for recruitment, actually, that they haven't started last year. I believe it's been working pretty well for them. We've gotten that now, so we're just starting that now.
What would your ideal number be of volunteers, do you think? I'm just curious.
Well, we have, is
Yes.
it 40,
We're at 60 right now.
45, how many interior firefighters?
42.
42 interior firefighters, which go through above and beyond all the training that anyone has to go through. All volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying anything against Fayetteville or Manlius, but when our ambulance goes out, it doesn't affect our fire protection. Because all our firefighters are still there if they're available. You gotta remember, they're volunteers, so in the day, sometimes we don't have the staff we have at this time of night. But that being said, when our ambulance does go out, that's a whole separate thing. So none of our firefighters are going with it.
Mhm.
But once again, we have, during the day, of course, we don't have the staff, but we're getting better with that too. So.
Good.
Very good. Yeah, any other questions? I think we're good, Bill.
So
Good.
So
I'd like to
open
make a
here.
motion to waive the reading of the public notice for
I'm gonna have right here.
the public hearing on contracting with the Village of Manoa for fire protection and EMS services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried?
Okay, and I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing regarding the contract with the Village of Manoa for fire protection and EMS services.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Again, we've opened the public hearing. Same thing as I said the last time. I don't know if you have anyone with their hand up on the, it's virtual. And anyone here in the boardroom that wants to take out, have any questions, same thing. Introduce yourselves. Less than 30 seconds. I'm kidding. 5 minutes, so on. So, we're good? All right, so.
Okay.
Okay, Bill.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you. So we need a motion to
I'll make
close.
a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. All right. So now we need a, regarding the contract now for the Manoa contract.
I'd like to make a motion for the supervisor to sign the contract with Village of Manoa for EMS and fire protection services.
Okay.
Now, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. All right, good to go, guys. Thank
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Next up,
One more.
Mayor and everyone patiently waiting. So why don't we can do the way, Bill, if you wanted to start out, Mark, the way Bill, or Mayor, the way Mayor Brazil did, you could do that, and then Annie Lane can do her.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Did
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
So thank you very much to Sarah and Elaine for coming and for doing this. I know we went through a few edits and I really appreciate the in-depth that this is done, and I really do appreciate that. This is my 17th year of presenting this budget to the town council. I want to thank you for listening and learning about the fire service and EMS. But first, I want to thank Chief Hildreth and all the line officers in the Fayetteville Fire Department for their leadership during this pandemic. They innovated, they collaborated, and they didn't miss one call. One call, okay? Through the whole pandemic, they worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some of his paychecks when I signed him, he's salary, but he lets me know how many hours he works. I'm like, nobody should work 90 hours a week, but he did. And I want to thank personally the chief for all his efforts, because with his leadership and the men and women that do this, they're the ones that should be congratulated on this budget. I said to the chief last year in March, I need you to cut your budget. During COVID is not a time to raise taxes. I need you to do more with less. He did that, and it's reflective in the numbers. We are putting out a product that I think is second to none. Nothing against Manoa, Manlius, Kirkville, but we are very proud of what we do. I want to thank the staff at the village, especially Lori. Lori gets to work with all these numbers in this spreadsheet, and there's a lot of numbers on this, but it's all good information. COVID really has thrown a wrench in what we do. Everything has changed. Masks, the PPP supplies, the medications, everything that we need to do, sanitizing, shifts. We've had to change sleeping arrangements. We have people at the firehouse every night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and holidays sleeping at that station so they can get out at an instant. So we had to change the way they sleep, where they sleep. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that we can get through COVID. Our EMS calls, Bill and the mayor did speak very good about what we're doing, but I will say Mayor Walsh is on top of this. We are working, it's not Mayor Walsh's problem. It is AMR, it is everybody in the system's problem. This is not going to be solved overnight. I've had to be walked off the cliff many times. I've talked to Sarah, I've talked to Ed. This is serious. It is serious because we are going to places where we shouldn't be. We are fortunate of the leadership in the 3 villages and the Kirkville Fire District. With your support, we can staff and maintain our quality of life for ambulance calls and fire calls. Other communities haven't done this. Other communities haven't put the resources and the money behind providing fire and EMS. In your chart in here, guess what it costs per day for a $200,000 house in the village or in the Fayetteville Fire Protection District? Take a guess. $1.62.
Okay.
a day to have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage, EMS and fire at your house in less than 4 minutes. With best trained, best staff, best equipped fire and EMS service in Onondaga County. And the busiest, that's in the city of Syracuse. We're very proud of what we do, but we can't do it alone. We can't do it without the 3 villages, or the 2 villages in Kirkville, Minoa, Manlius, and Kirkville. If we didn't have them, we couldn't do all the things that we do. I want to thank the chief publicly for all of his support, because they go on our calls and they help us. Rob, all your help during the floods, the snow, and the phone calls saying, watch out for this road's closed, this is closed. Be careful of this. The communication is key to the town supervisor. Now, every time it rains or snows, I get my phone call. What do you need? What can we do? It's important. When everybody else is sleeping, the 3 mayors, the 3 fire chiefs, the police chief, and Rob, and Mark DPW, we're up. We're worried about this stuff because that's what we do. That's our job. And we take it very, very seriously. I again implore all of you, I want you to take a ride along. I want you to sit at the station from 6 at night till maybe 10. See what they do, see the training, see the calls, see what they do, see the cleaning. Please, you'll get such a perspective. When Elaine and Sarah walked around, I think you got a little bit of it, and you can see how much stuff's going on and how many things are happening. I think it's important. When you look at these numbers are numbers, but what we're doing is really important. And then the radio grant, I think, is very important. We got $550,000 from a federal FEMA grant, or from a AFG grant, that is going to subsidize new radios. 911 and the county gave us those radios, but it's our responsibility to replace them. I think the police chief has probably had to replace some of his that he got initially. So that's a big hit. With the help of all 3 chiefs and Kirkville, we were able to go together and save the taxpayers. Just in Fayetteville, it was over $140,000 savings. You don't do that without having great leaders like Chief Hildreth and a good trustees and board that supports these actions. And I want to thank the village board for all their support in making this happen. So this is a complex budget. We're very fortunate that this year it's down. We're working on 2 big initiatives right now. One is life pack contracts for our stretchers, our AEDs, and our life pack monitors. Sarah was part of that. And we're also looking at an apparatus purchase that's going to hopefully bring the lease costs down. But this is something that we're working on long-term 10-year leases. And in 4 years, 5 budget years, but 4 years, our building's paid off.
Yep.
So thank God, because that's a big package. For the new people, we had to do 15 years. We couldn't do 30 because we put onto an addition, or we put onto an existing building. So
it was a higher annual fee.
we couldn't bond for 30 years. Tough pill to swallow for 15 years, but it does save the taxpayers money. So we can go through, I have a couple other comments, but we'll wait for the slideshow. All right. I was looking forward to seeing the slideshow, because it's really nice.
It helps to have a graphic designer who's your colleague.
Looking fingers, think so Mark can see the slide.
Oh, I got it.
Right.
But I do have to, at least allowed to have her glasses. I didn't, mine.
It's all about-
I brought mine.
It's all about the village and sharing,
I was using
you know?
scissors, I thought I was gonna-
Go ahead, Elaine, if you want to.
Yep. So the first slide again just describes the Fayetteville Fire Department. And the second slide talks about the district, the fire protection district, with including the village, and their calls for 2020 and 2019.
I can give you year-to-date so
Yeah,
far on fire. We have
absolutely.
done 617 calls, and we have done 1,983 ambulance calls as of today. We were up 300 plus calls in ambulance. So, and again, I want to make sure I stress the city and the village.
Yeah.
I talked to Mayor Walsh today on the way to Buffalo. We are working together. We didn't get in this alone, and we're not going to get out of it alone. But we have a serious issue that we're going to have to address.
So our next slide, of course, is we have the Fayetteville Fire Department has 100 volunteers and 13 career firefighters and EMS workers, and we just want to say thank you for your service. And then the next slide, of course, is the numbers. Again, with the 5 years, it's just the town share, the contract with the village and the town, and then the total budget numbers below.
You'll notice the revenue line is different than the budget line because we took in more, so we used
Right,
the more
right.
number.
Yep.
Okay, and that's the number that goes back to the
AUD,
AUD report.
You get that, what about September? When do you get that in?
We get ambulance revenue every month.
Oh, every month, okay.
And so then the pie chart shows where, all their operating expenses, the capital expenses, the revenue, on the side, it says what revenue is, and then the total budget. And with the village of Fayetteville, the Manlius and Minoa do separate the fire department and the EMS. This is all together, just to make sure everyone's aware. And then the next slide, again, it's just showing this, the operating expenses from last year to this year. Yes, the Fayetteville has gone down this year.
Part of the rep, if you look at the slide before, when it talks about employee benefits.
Yeah.
Some of that, when you think of employee benefits, it's social security, it's FICA, or, social security, health insurance, workman's comp. But you got Elaine put in service awards, VFBL, firefighter recognition, and physicals. That's about $150,000. I don't think that's, you could say it's an employee, but
I try to keep
it's
it
not really employee
the same,
benefits. It's
the same
more,
between departments, but it's tricky because they're all, yeah.
it's required that we do those things,
Right,
so
yeah.
it could be put in a different line, that's all. Because somebody might look at that and say, oh my God, you're paying them that kind of benefit.
Right. But they do separate their capital expenses, so I just show a pie chart there. To show that, and you said what, there's 4 years left on the building, which is in. So.
Yeah, and the building's the majority of that.
Yeah.
The ladder truck just got paid off, so then everything's paid, and now we started fresh with this new lease program that you'll see in our next budget process.
Okay. And then the next slide shows the Fayetteville Fire Protection District, which again just shows the red is the actual district where we live in the town. And the tax rate versus last year to this year, again, it went down. And it shows like if you have an excess value of 200,000, it kind of just shows you what you pay for fire service.
So for a household, it went down about $47.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah. And then of course we show the apparatuses. And then if you do want to volunteer with the Fayetteville Fire Department or EMS team, please check out our website and get involved. That's the plan.
Thank you.
And I think it's important to let people know that at the Fayetteville Fire Department, 6 volunteers, 4 fire, 2 EMS. They're at 6 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, donating their time and their talent, and in some cases their treasure, because they're also giving back to the organization. The Firemen's Association just donated to the fire victims of Manlius. They sponsor a lot of Little League teams and other things like that. So that's not taxpayer funds, but a lot of those things happen. They're giving their money and their time and their talent. So.
And it's good to see that you did go down over 5% decrease, so that's a good number.
Not sure it's gonna,
Yeah.
hopefully the lease will help and the
Well, yeah,
individuals will help, but then there is, you can't go to the chief and say you need to cut 10%.
But you know what
Not when calls
happens?
going up.
It happens every year, each department.
One
of them goes up.
One of them, and it's like,
That's a spike.
I'll go down one time. But no, these guys do a great job. I did want to point out the chief, along with, I think it was the chief of Manlius, did send me a letter that they copied, that they sent to the hospitals regarding their concerns with these delays at the hospitals and how long they had to wait. So as soon as I received that letter, thank you, I emailed everybody and said, what's going on, and this was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I got this. So this has been a real issue for the last couple of months, and it doesn't seem to be improving, but at least people are aware of it, and
Everybody's
something's
aware.
going to get done. here,
From the county executive to the mayor,
Right.
to the Office of Emergency Management, to the head of EMS, CNY, to the hospitals.
Yeah.
Also, Town of Sullivan, we sent them a letter. Every ambulance call we go on, we lose about, on average, if you take our revenue minus our expenses, about $200 a call.
Right.
So we sent a letter to the Town of Sullivan and said, we're going there too much.
Yeah.
Here's a bill, and we'd like to be reimbursed.
Right.
I got a phone call. So they have a contract with AMR, and they will look into it. But I think it's important that mutual aid is set up for people to help each other. When I send a truck to Rob, I know Rob's gonna send a truck to me. You know what I mean? It's just, that's mutual
So
aid.
we do it. Yep.
When you're going on 30 calls in a 24-hour period, and 17 of them are outside of your district, that's not mutual aid.
And I think Minoa and Kirkville go to Sullivan County
You know,
Town of
yeah,
Sullivan
yeah.
will actually.
No, well, Manoa, yes, Kirkville doesn't have the ambulance. Kirkville got out of the ambulance business and then put it on Manoa House
Right.
with no help.
But I think
And-
you go to Bridgeport all the time. right?
And, well.
Yeah, and I think.
Let me just bang that drum one more time.
Yeah.
They got out of the business.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be Manoa's problem and Fayetteville's problem with no fund. Let that sink in. No fund.
Because Kirkville doesn't
They're out.
levy for
They're not doing
EMS,
it,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
They're not doing it.
Yeah, that's why they're.
So because they're not levying for EMS, they're not contributing.
Well, they,
But it's still,
Yeah.
somebody's got to pay for it.
Mhm.
Surprising how much.
Fayetteville's paying for it. And again, I'll go back to my other number. 80% of the calls are in the town or outside the village.
Mhm.
And yet we pay 33% of all of it. Let that number sink in.
Okay, ready?
Yep. Oh, okay. You
No?
want to make- oh, wait,
We gotta do a
need
public
another-
hearing. That's,
Yeah.
I was
why
gonna
she's
do that
gonna do it.
reading.
Perfect.
That's what I was gonna do.
Yeah, excellent.
On that
Thank you.
note, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice for the public hearing on contracting with the Village of Fayetteville for fire protection and EMS services.
I was second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed and carried.
And I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing regarding contracting with the Village of Fayetteville for fire protection and EMS services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. If you don't know the story by now, the public hearing is open, and if there's anyone,
No online.
no online, okay, anyone here so far hasn't been? And they're still open, so I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. All right. So we need a motion regarding the Fayetteville Fire Protection Contract.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize
The supervisor to
the
sign.
to sign the contract with the Village of Fayetteville for fire protection and EMS services.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Very good. All right, thank you, everyone. I think we still have Kurt.
We do have, we didn't want to leave, we left Kirkville out last year, and so we wanted to make sure
What's a district? Do vote on
we,
that?
no, we don't vote.
We don't.
It's just
because
providing
a district.
information.
Yeah, right, okay, good.
So I can do it really quickly. I don't think anyone's
And
here.
before you do it, Elaine, I just want to reach out.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks for coming. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, everyone. Clerk treasurers especially, because I know you guys will work.
Thank you.
Trustees.
Thank you. Okay, Elaine, go ahead.
And then Elaine, you can mention their public hearing.
I'm going to. I have-
Oh, okay, good, good. All right.
What's Kirkville's on?
I like the colors you chose for all.
I try to match their district or their
Yeah.
fire trucks or
Yeah.
their website.
Very professional.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor.
So we, so of course we have another, fire district in the town of Manlius, and that is Brookfield Fire Company. This is a fire district, so they are completely self-run. They have, their own board, and they do their meetings and budgets and everything. But we wanted to make sure we included them, because they are, of course, part of the town of Manlius. So they are 100% volunteer run. And there's some information about their fire district. They have, and in some of their, the 2020 calls, 154 fire and rescue calls. In 2020 and 2018, 162. They have approximately 30 volunteers, and we of course want to say thank you for your service. And then this is just their proposed budget. Again, the town does not, we don't have any kind of say here. This is their budget, but they're required to have a public hearing. And their public hearing is on October 19th, 2021, of course, at 7 p.m. at the Brookfield Firehouse. And we, Sarah and I actually went in towards their firehouse
Oh, nice.
and everything. It was really nice. And I learned about this program that they do where you can get your address number nice and bright, because it helps with response time. If they can't find you, it slows them down, which is really cool. So I just included that in this slide. And then here is their budget, of course, a lot different than all the other ones. Are a lot smaller, but this is just their information. And then the tax rate for this fire protection. No, I wouldn't think fire protection.
It's not protection.
Yeah, that's probably wrong. So it's fire district, the fire district. And then to note too, like, their budget's much smaller, but then the amount of parcels in this district is a lot smaller than.
Yes.
That's why. This is their apparatus. I believe they purchased a truck.
Yeah,
this
the
year.
one on the left, they just bought this spring.
Yeah. But it's nice they budget for that every 10 years.
Right.
And then, of course, if you want to volunteer with with Brookfield Fire Company, please check out their website at brookfieldfire.com, or give them an email or contact them. And that is Kirkville.
Okay.
The tree commission just planted a beautiful river birch in front of the building.
Of the
So you'll-
fire station?
Yeah, so you'll see that when you go.
For Arbor Day.
Yeah.
Celebrate.
Yeah, Deputy Supervisor Green
which I
was there
couldn't
to
make.
read the proclamation.
Yes. Very good. All right then, well, I think we can move on. We've got all the fire stuff done.
That's a big one.
Yes, it was, but it was very informative. I know there's a lot of issues, as you heard,
Yeah.
with what's going on with the hospitals and so on. But they are, they do work very well with all the municipalities around, and we have good communication and relationships. So with that being said, now we need the preliminary budget presentation, which I know that budget folder, I'll just so I can have it in front of me. I know that our finance committee of Caitlin and Sarah and I and Ann have been diligently meeting since the last board meeting. And we have made some changes from the tentative, which Sarah, I think you're going to discuss those a little bit for us tonight.
So first off, I'd like to thank Town Manager Ann Oot for diligently following our wandering conversation to arrive at a figure somewhere
Yes.
here. So a couple of things just to point out for the group is that we are planning to fund a pay equity study in this budget to evaluate non-union staff salaries. So this would be not to say what the outcome of this would be, but just to evaluate whether we're in keeping with other municipalities, with the standards of civil service, and just making sure that we keep up on that. We had, there was a particular individual where there's going to be an adjustment for that person due to circumstances that her duties have adjusted. We had an error actually that was found, so thank you, that we had to correct. So, that's why it's good to have more than one person read something. Payroll increases for the non-union personnel were set at 2%. We did a couple of things which you will see here called salary development. That is the unknown yet to be determined based on the pay equity. So we just estimated a figure and that will be evaluated at the time when we figure it out.
Yeah.
We did suggest that the police department reduce the new vehicles from 5 to 4, and we are happy to report, which is not every year, that the health insurance is actually lower instead of higher. So, well, a lower increase than what we, it's not lower, it's a lower increase than what was
The
projected.
tentative was at 9%, and the final meeting, they increased 7%. So that's a good difference.
And I believe you all got the email that we think the liability insurance will also go down. So there's some positive, silver lining somewhere in there.
Right.
So basically those are the primary issues. The rest of this is broken out by the B fund and the A fund and so
Right.
forth. But those were the real issues. So there's not a lot of change between the tentative and the preliminary. And if we want to do some other things, we have like a week to figure that out, because then it's over. So if there's something else people want, or some other thing that you want to make sure that we write into this, that we do need to make sure it's included before we go to the public hearing, that we know what we want to do.
Yeah, we didn't adjust any of the fund balances that I put in the tentative, and that's always a topic of conversation, depends on how the fund balances look. So that's always a discussion. And I'm thinking we don't have all the district information yet either, right? Or do we?
On the storm, we have,
No.
we do not have final figures on the
Right.
storm we've told it would be very similar to before, so we're not worried about it, but we are going to get a formal
Yeah.
statement.
So we have our work cut out for us to try to get it, because right now we're still, our increase for, full town is still a little over 5%, and part town is a little over 3% increase. We want to try to get those on 2 or under, which we've always been able to try to do, have been able to do over the 12 years anyway that I've been here. So we have our work cut off for us. So the next item, of course, unless you had any other questions on the preliminary for us.
So if we
Yeah.
set the public hearing, we still have a week to make changes before we.
Yeah, before the
Publish it?
final, yeah.
So first up,
Go ahead.
I would say 2 things.
Yeah.
One, if you think of something or you read it over and say, oh my God, we totally forgot this thing that we plan to do,
Yeah.
but we want to announce that at the public hearing. So they say, in addition to what you've already seen, we plan to do this other thing.
Right.
Okay.
But then also if we hear something at the public hearing that, oh my goodness, yes, we should have done that, we can change it. We just have to vote to change it at that point. So
After the public hearing?
after the public
Right,
hearing.
after, when we adopt the final budget, that's when we make all the final
Well, we
changes.
would make the changes first before we adopt it.
Correct.
Yeah, so we have the public hearing and then the week later we would adopt it. So there's time to say, oh,
Public hearing
I
a week
learned this
later.
thing from the public hearing and I want to apply it to the final budget.
Okay,
You get all that right, Ann, Allison?
and then where is the preliminary is on the website now? No.
So just
It's
to be
tentative.
clear, so,
Yeah,
okay, just to
Allison?
be clear. Tonight, so you already adopted the tentative budget, that's everything that was worked on. Tonight, you will adopt the preliminary budget, because we cannot set a date for the public hearing until we've officially adopted the preliminary budget.
Right.
Once that budget is adopted, I will put that, when it's given to me, I'll put that on the website. Any changes that you make to the preliminary budget after you adopt it tonight has to be made by motion. So that's the big list that Ann gives you, and then we adopt that.
So our goal, right now, we're still at 5%. Our goal is to try to get that lower,
Yeah.
even though we potentially will be adopting the budget to set the public hearing tonight.
Yeah, so we're going to adopt the preliminary tonight
With the changes.
with
that-
the
With these
changes
changes that we
that
just made
are
from the
here,
tentative.
that were the adjustments,
Yeah.
that
To the
the
tentative.
estimated salary changes.
Yep.
And a couple of other things.
Okay.
So that would be in the budget we adopt tonight. We'll set the public hearing and we can change it again before the final.
And the budget must be adopted, I just have a note here, by November 17th.
Mhm.
So that's.
Yeah.
that's
Public hearing has to be held.
We're having the public hearing at our next board meeting.
Okay, so
We have
then
a-
we're fine.
There's a special notice we have to put in the paper that lists out certain salaries and things like that, so we have all
Okay.
that ready to go.
All right.
So
So,
can I ask Sarah a quick
Sure.
question?
Yeah.
Sarah, I didn't see the sheet. Can you just tell us what is set aside or budgeted for the pay equity audit?
that was
20,000.
20,000.
I'm sorry. Good. I will share this email with everybody.
No worries.
That's where I'm like,
Yeah, we'll get everything.
I don't have it in front of me. I don't like that.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of last second things
Mhm.
that had to be completed that we just got that.
Right,
pretty much.
so,
Thank you.
so I just want to give credit. I
So-
don't want to throw in another, Ann
Oh.
sent it at
Yeah.
1:30. I saw it at 4:30.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But we still
Perfect.
have like that one meeting too, so we still have.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
we,
time to change.
plenty of time for that. So that's what we need to do next is actually set the,
But first we need to
we
adopt.
have to adopt the. yeah,
So I would make a
absolutely.
motion
Yep.
to adopt the preliminary as amended with the things you didn't see. I apologize.
We'll
And,
get that.
and then we would adopt it and then we can set the public.
Is that
I'll
the
second
motion?
that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. All right, now we can set the public hearing for the preliminary.
So I would make a motion to set the public hearing to discuss the 2022 Town of Manlius budget for October 27th at 6:40. Is that the only one we have?
No, we'll do property tax.
So 6:40.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, and the next item on the list is the public hearing for the property tax cap. Actually, waiving is what we usually do, only because we never know. And of course, Tim can explain the whole process that we've been going through since 2011 now.
Yeah, so the state allows towns to override the property tax cap that's under general municipal laws, Article 3, I think it is. This year, the property tax cap is 2%. I have always advised that we pass the override. It's got to be done by a majority plus one vote. But we just don't know what the numbers are because we don't have all the special districts in yet. We just don't know. And if we don't do it, then a year, 2 years from now, when the controller's office comes in and does an audit, they determine that we were over the property tax cap, then you would have to set aside the balance or the difference between what the property tax cap was and how much you were over it, and which is just a penalty upon a penalty.
Right.
I don't think that's a wise or prudent thing to expose yourself to. So that's why we do it every year. Of course, it's the intention of the town board to stay under the property tax cap, even if you do override it. So there's no, even if you override the property tax cap, you have every right to come under the property tax cap.
Right. And you all received the resolution. So now we need
So
a,
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing in the matter of overriding the property tax cap on October 27th at 6:35.
Yes, that one would be 6:35. The last one we just said at 6:40, so, I mean, it doesn't even.
Which one you want to do first?
Well,
Let's do 6:45.
6:45? 6:45.
oh, okay.
That's because we have the public, we have the
The public,
comment period.
Yeah, open
between
podium.
6:30
Yeah,
and
right,
6:45.
right, yeah.
I'll second that then.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, very good. All right, and item 13, next we have Espinelli's seasonal sidewalk snow contract. Elaine, is this your?
this is Elaine's.
I guess it's
Nice.
mine. I mean, they
Yeah.
shovel our driveway or
Yeah.
sidewalks in the winter.
Sidewalks, yes.
It did go up a little bit, but
Yeah, I couldn't, it's $180 per rate, which you can.
And we close the stairway,
Yes, we close the stop.
but they shovel the back
it's,
to the
yeah.
court and then they shovel.
It's not that long.
Yeah, but gas has gone up. I'm sure their operating expenses have gone up. So
Yeah, I
So,
think so.
oh, you need a motion.
Okay.
I'd like make a motion to approve that contract.
For-
Or have this approve
I
the
guess
supervisor
I
to,
think, yes.
the supervisor to sign it.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? Carried. All right, next we have the, I'm sorry, Austin Meadows hydrant. We have a couple items, actually. Rob has some information too to cover along with the hydrants that need our approval to have them.
Yeah, and obviously,
So, go ahead.
without the water line, they
Yeah,
don't have
can't have a-
hydrants. You know, so, actually, for the new subdivision, that phase 5, so they're doing a installation of the water line. So basically, what I will need is the supervisor's signature, motion of supervisor's signature, them to work within the town's right of way to install the water line. And then that would be in addition to, for the hydrants. So,
It's two separate motions on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
Go
would
ahead.
make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the aqua agreement.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then you have all your
yeah, I've got those.
line information.
Yep, and then I've got another one that, if you want to do the hydrants.
Yeah,
so that's all together.
Yep.
Is that in there, the hydrants? Is in
Yep,
this
that'll be a
agreement?
separate
The hydrant's in
motion.
here, but it's separate from the line.
That's correct, because there's a charge, I believe, for the hydrants and installation charge. For
And
the
then there's an
hydrants.
annual fee.
It's an annual fee,
Right.
so that's what you have to have separate.
Okay, yeah,
contract.
yeah, it has 74.50 per.
So I would make a motion to approve Austin Meadows Section 5 hydrant for the new phase of the development.
Second.
That line is bringing the water to her.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. So that's.
Are we checking on Caitlin's, Caitlin's just listening, or was Caitlin, is
Yeah,
Caitlin,
she's-
but she's just not voting? Right, gotcha.
No, I think she's still under the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, COVID hit everybody.
Yeah, it sounded that way.
And I have another water line, if you want to do that now.
Might as well,
While
sure.
We're making
Let's-
motions on
we're on,
water.
yeah,
I've got
water
another one out, obviously, from Onondaga County Water Authority. They are looking to do a betterment of the water lines on the Brickyard Falls Road and Quarry Road. It's from the dead end of Quarry Road, it brings it out to Brickyard.
Oh,
up
yeah.
To the town line. So they're basically doing a replacement of the old water system. So again, I'll just need a motion for your signature to work within the town's right.
And that's where they work, we're working there.
Yep, they worked, they
Yeah,
worked on
say
it
that we're
today.
this close,
Yep,
I guess.
yep. So they're doing the work, then we'll approve it, you know, but that's just the way the board meetings fall.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I need a motion.
I didn't hear that.
That's the Tim emoji, eye roll emoji right there.
Unfortunately, the meetings don't line up. with when they're working.
Yeah.
We're ratifying.
We're at-
Exactly,
all right,
exactly.
all right,
So I would make a motion to allow the supervisor to sign an agreement with Aqua to do water repairs on Quarry Road
Yep, and Brickyard.
and Brickyard Place.
Second, all in favor? Opposed, carried, excellent. Okay, now, well,
We're good with that. Good with the water
all
line.
right, now we'll move on to item 15, the trash and brush contract bids. I believe you all received Ann's email. And Ann and Allison and I were at the meeting. Tim, did you were there? Yeah, I thought you were.
I just happened to be
You
here.
did step in. Ann, would you like to give the overview of it? I mean, you sent this out to us. It looks pretty.
Well, I did, as long as everyone did get the correction I made
Yeah.
earlier this evening.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, so it's, the bid is $358 a base bid.
Yep.
Like, why is it the same?
Well,
How come there's no difference?
there's a difference with purchasing though. For the
Purchasing the new truck.
Standard,
The garbage
the
can,
the cans, right, where the other one's included.
but it's the same amount.
It's the same amount, but if it's the base, so the base bid of $358, if they go with standard pickup, which we have right now, residents can use their own trash cans. You would still need to use recycle bins or whatever cart that you have for your recycling. If you opt to have one of the haulers roll out carts, it would still direct bill you for that, and that's about $75 per year. So that's the standard bid, so you'd still be paying, the extra. And then the automated bid, well, that's a 3-year, so the standard bid's a 3-year with the 2 1-year option renewals. The automated bid, again, is $358 for the base bid, but that does include a rollout trash cart for each resident, which is a 95 and a 65, something like that. And then you also get a rollout recycling cart.
You do.
So that's at no extra
Right.
cost. So you
Okay.
remove that direct bill, and you also have a recycling container. So it would be, more standardized pickup, and it would be then the automated, which then would reduce their service costs, because you have one
person.
driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, the automated is.
Yeah, and the representative,
And,
They're gonna come talk
one
to
item,
you.
sorry,
Yes, go ahead.
they, Syracuse Haulers is looking for, or they'd like to have a 5-year contract for that automated, but it is still laid out in a 3-year with the 2 options, but that is their preference. Obviously, they're investing, into.
So one concern I had was like the opt-out date has already passed.
Yes.
So how, so the cost is going up? Like, is there any way we can change that? Just in case anybody wanted to.
The only way that you could do that, you would have to, you would be able to opt out in January. It would create a rather large problem for the tax receiver. She would be issuing refunds.
Right.
I mean, you can do that. It would just be,
Okay. So they have to do it next year, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate part with the
Yes.
contract coming late now.
Okay.
People have to opt out in September.
Okay, so we had talked about having a representative of
Yeah.
Syracuse House come next. So we don't have to take any action now, but if people could send their questions in advance
Yeah.
to Anne
So they're
to
prepared.
share so that,
Yeah.
and then, I think that's one of them, if they could do some kind of a break on year one, like instead of it being the same for 3 years, could it be escalating so
Maybe
that,
go
so
with
that
the-
it's not such a hit for taxpayers, those are the kinds of things to think about. how we wanna-
Continue normal pickup and then in the opt-out period. Plus too, we give us a lot of time to educate, residents so that they know if you don't want this, you have to opt out.
So those are some things to think about, but, he may say he can't do that, but we just want to be prepared. with
I
that.
think that's a good point, and he mentioned a few items that just that Ann had said with the automated, there's one person. When you have the non-automated, you have two people.
Mhm.
So there's extra people that they don't have, actually.
Right,
Right.
and
That's
that's been a
one-
real challenge. this
Those
year.
are some of the problems right now.
Yes.
And like staffing has been the main issue. So if we have a way to be less, reliant on extra staff.
Yeah, and it's too bad. I mean, the cost of these things, but I know Ann has used examples 20 years ago, I guess you had, and it costs about what it is now back then. So
Mhm.
if you did your own private person, it might be even more. Who knows? But we don't know that.
I guess it goes without saying, but we only had one bidder.
Yeah,
So
no, I think that-
I want to make sure,
yeah.
I want to make sure everybody
Yes.
understands that we only had one
We don't
bidder.
have much option.
Yes.
There is no option.
So our options are limited.
The negotiating power we do have is knowing that they want a 5-year contract, so we do have some.
And that they did present an option for food waste.
Yes, yeah, they
So
did.
there's
So-
options,
So
so
there's
that's
some.
good.
That was
yeah, so
really
there's some good
interesting. I really
conversations
appreciated
with-
that.
yeah.
I want to dig into it because we just got it, so.
No pun intended.
So I think, so is it the will of the board to invite him to come next time?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does plan on being here.
There you go.
So
And
yes, and they did ask for questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
My other question too is like, we have to do this every 3 or 5 years. But then if the cost goes up, that directly impacts our tax
Mhm.
capping.
Yeah,
It's like,
I hope
so,
there's more bidders the next time around too.
Well, it's also, it's like a capital expense in some ways too. So I think if we think about planning it, thinking of it as like a capital expense for quality of life, but we have to.
I'm surprised they went a 5-year.
Well,
It escalated
only
costs
for
of-
the automated,
Yeah, but even
Pickup.
that.
yeah,
You
but
know.
that's because.
But they want
have
to amortize
invest-
the cost of the
Invest in
truck.
Yeah, they'd have to invest more in those types of trucks.
Yeah, so.
And we know, for reality, Okra is raising their prices. too.
Oh, yeah, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. All right,
but
so we'll,
we have a 2-year contract with that right now, right?
so again,
So we look at the compost piece to reduce waste by 15% in those bins, right? That would be ideal. 15% reduction in trash is our only way so far that I can see that we're going to reduce these overall costs.
Based on weight, right? Is it based on weight? or-
Yeah,
No.
I think so.
That's recycling.
The
It is,
tipping fees is
yeah,
based on
tipping
weight.
fee
Yeah.
is based on weight.
I know something's based on weight.
Yeah, so, very good. So we'll really hold a lot of our questions till next meeting. So I encourage all of you to, shoot off the information, questions to Ann, and then we'll get them on to Kevin.
By the way,
Yeah.
in the other towns I'm in, there's always only been one bidder on
Yeah.
all
Okay,
these
that's
kinds. So
good to
this
know.
is not an unusual situation.
Interesting.
That's
I wonder, like, they all talk and who's gonna bid on what? Hopefully
Well,
not.
Don't say that.
No. I hope
Can't
not.
do that.
No, no. I didn't say that, sorry.
But they're all,
I retract that.
they're all having the same problem, which is
Right.
labor.
Right,
and
right.
They don't want to bid on.
Overcommit.
Yeah, they don't know
Yeah.
exactly.
I
They don't
understand.
It won't make sense then why they want to incentivize the automated.
These are unusual times.
Yeah.
So, all right, very good. Now we have the Lower Chittenango Creek Maintenance Agreement.
So
which,
I would like to comment on that.
Yes,
So,
please do.
the town of Manlius participates with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the New York State Office of General Services to to participate in resilient New York flood with the Chittenango Creek, which Limestone Creek flows into to Oneida Lake. And we, with the town of Sullivan and the county of Madison, are sharing a cost of some maintenance work in the Chittenango Creek at that end. And our share would be $1,350 for 5 years, so it's not,
Yeah.
it's pretty reasonable. So I would like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign this agreement for the lower Chittenango Creek, lower, although it's north, which I
North,
consider
yeah,
upper,
right.
maintenance agreement.
All the water runs north.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good, Sarah. Thank you. And next is the pilot agreement renewal property, Brookfield Solar. John, did you want to take this? Or?
Yeah, so this is, as we kind of learned from OSIDA, how this process goes for having them do the pilots.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the letter that we're gonna send in saying that we, agree to the rate that they've given us, or, that's been agreed upon. And I know I've been in contact with them. I know, I think it's, ESM has already sent their letter in. So this is basically just letting OSIDA know that we agree to this rate and we're, in general, support of the project.
In general support. All right, very good.
Do you want to highlight again the numbers for us?
It's 4,000.
Thank you.
per
4,000 per,
Megawatt.
yeah,
megawatt.
and it's a little on the low side, but it's because of the size of the project.
Got it. If that's what I wanted to, that's remember, because we were shooting for upwards of 6,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we were told to expect somewhere between 4 and 6, and so it's on the low end just due to the size.
Couldn't have compromised at 5. No, this is good. All right. So we need, that was a motion then, John, or two, or no, you made the motion.
She made.
John did. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll be very happy to have that letter sent in. I think that was,
Yeah, very good.
that was one of the last things they were waiting on.
Yeah,
So.
it's, well, it's dated today, but I can sign it and get that off tomorrow. Yeah, I had that, Sarah did the last motion. That's what I was going to do. All right, next is Highway Superintendent, Rob.
Aside from our water lines, I do have one thing I want to bring up tonight. I talked a couple of weeks ago to John, Sarah, obviously liaisons for me. Obviously, and I mentioned to the board about how our purchasing processes have gone. When we purchased this equipment, it's gone from 6 months to a year, and now we're to a year to 18 months before we're actually receiving this equipment. And it just sounds like it's getting worse and worse. But this last piece of equipment that we did order was a package deal. Normally we order a cab and chassis, then we do a dump body, and then we do plow equipment. But this last one is basically a package deal. So within that process, we ordered a sander for this 10-wheeler. And the 10-wheeler sander came in, and we ordered a 14-foot sander. But typically what we would normally order in the past when we ordered this stuff was a high side sander. So the volume that we can carry is going to be less in this particular sander. So I worked with the vendor. They're going to reimburse us, full reimbursement for the sander. The only thing they're going to charge us for is obviously a fee for the movement of the vehicle and putting on and all that. But the overall number is going to about even out what we're able to purchase from Tracy Road Equipment. They have a high side 2020 highway sander, which is everything else we have in our shop and what we've ordered before in the past. So I guess I'll need a motion to, we do have the money budget.
They have it in stock, so you can
They
actually get
do,
it.
they
too.
do. Actually,
Great.
they can have it to us tomorrow. So,
That's good.
which will work out good. So we
Well,
can
I
get it out
think
of the truck here. So.
This is the sharing amongst highway superintendents. It's somebody else's sander,
Yeah,
but
actually,
their truck isn't ready.
this sander is actually a Oswego County sander that they have at Tracy Road Equipment right now, but their truck is 12 to 18 months out.
Oh, my gosh.
So they're waiting on their cab and chassis. So I
Is
did
it
talk
you
to the
can have
highway superintendent, of Oswego County, and said, listen, is there a way we can work something out here?
So I just think people don't realize how much
Yeah.
collaboration goes on.
It does get done. And again, I got to take responsibility because if we'd have looked a little bit closer with that package deal and looked at the capacities, we went with the 14-foot length because that's our typical length. Now, we could have added sides to this thing. It would not have, it just wouldn't have worked the way I feel it would be best because we use these sanders for multiple cab and chassis. So we try and put at least 2 cab chassis underneath each one of these sanders. So again, how much is that? Well, the one we're gonna be buying is a 2020. It'll be for $22,713. So I'll need a motion to purchase that.
All right.
The
And again, there is
refund's
money in the
about, the
budget.
refund's.
And the refund's gonna be from Henderson. It'll be roughly around the same amount. It might
Somebody
be
else
actually,
need that
it
one.
might even be actually a little bit more because they have a pre-wet system that we'll have to purchase later for the new sander.
Okay.
So
Need a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve $22,713 for the 2020 high side or whatever.
You got it. The high and the high side.
Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Anything else?
Nope, I'm done.
Attorney Franceschi.
So I have two things. One of them I would like to discuss in executive session. It's just it's the host community that we've been discussing. And that's what I have to ask me to negotiate. Only relatively quick. So, and I have been in touch with the developer of the new proposed town hall. Yeah, so I have not gotten the lease yet, but I will get a lease on that. But there's a litigation that we discuss. So it'll be a promise you, relatively short executive session. So that's all I have.
All right. You're in charge of it. All right. Hey, Allison?
I have nothing except to say, I just wanted to thank the chief. We hosted the Onondaga County Town Clerks Association for a training.
Yeah.
And we used our hybrid meeting function. So we had some town clerks who attended in person, about half and half. So we had 5 or 6 people here, and then we had 5 or 6 people who attended online. It was great for the town clerks that are also tax receivers, because it did happen at the height of tax receiver time.
Yeah.
And the chief gave us a really great presentation on tactical communication and just how to kind of speak to people in diffuse situations. The thing I did want to say is that I did learn that he has used some of those tactics on me. I was like, wait, you said that to me. But I just really appreciate it. And all of the town clerks loved it. It was a huge hit for our organization. And, you know, I just love sharing our resources with them. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Chief. All right. Speaking of Chief, you're up next. What do you have?
I have no report.
Nothing. Okay.
Chief said that you love the town clerks.
Town manager. And do you have anything?
Not really, I generally don't provide too many updates at the board. Obviously, budget, we will be having a benefits fair for our employees next Thursday. May is finalizing those details, so she will include all of you in that. Many of our vendors for health insurance or for compensation, they will be here, so that information is out. It's open enrollment for health insurance, so we're getting that ready. And we're making a upgrade to our payroll system. We currently use Paychex, a couple different platforms. We are making an upgrade because they have the platform that we use is pretty outdated. So we have nothing else to do but the system upgrade. Yes, and some retirement upgrades. Yes, Kay and I sort of were pulling our hair out today at how much is happening in the next couple months. But Janet and Sharon are involved in some of those processes also. It'll be a busy time, but a lot of good upgrades.
Yeah, I just want to add, I know we're in the final stretch now, but the amount of work that Ann has put into our budgets to date has just been phenomenal. Ann, thank you very much. I mean, I don't think you took Monday off. I think you still worked.
Or the weekend.
Or the weekend, right? But again, I just shout out to all the work you've been doing to date, because I know we're not done yet. So thank you very much. Sarah, I think you had an item that
Yes,
you wanted to.
so I wanted to identify that a resident, Carrie Hunt, had contacted me with regard to speed on Green Lakes Road, otherwise known as 290, for a speed test. Tina and Deb did some work to discover that we have in fact looked at this before, but it was in 2015. So the question is, has anything changed between 2015 and now? The highway department, the state DOT wouldn't lower it in 2015. What would make them be different now? I think that the only thing, I mean, it really hasn't changed much. I think what I perceive is what's changed is the improvements from the Erie Canal, that there's many more people crossing the road to the park than was in 2015. And that could be our excuse for asking DOT to look at this again, because that's the section where she's talking about. So it's probably going to be denied. So the question is just whether if it's worth putting in the request again to do the.
Didn't we get a letter though that came across the transom about one that had been approved to be lowered?
Yeah,
Is
that
it the separate
was-
issue?
That was the other end of the canal towards, on 290, going west.
Sorry. I
Going
didn't-
to Fremont.
Yeah.
Fremont, yeah, right.
Isn't that the
Rob, and
intersection
those
right there?
requests, they're taking over
Yeah,
a
you're over
year.
a year.
Oh, yeah, it was a year,
Yeah.
the other one was a year before we got the answer.
And
Yeah.
I think, Sarah, you mentioned just a Pearson Road is what you're looking at.
Yeah, we were looking from 257 to Pearson.
And they did, and I mean, obviously, going to Green Lakes a lot to participate in a lot of events crossing that road. They have a blinking lights now that you can hit, but, still people don't, they don't always slow down.
It's all over it.
So,
I mean,
so I think to me, I think it's worth, reaching out to them again, see if.
Yeah.
they-
Okay, so-
was it a T-
So we're at TE9.
TE9, yeah,
I'm all prepared, and apparently the clerk does the TE9.
yes.
but it's going to take a while.
Yeah, so
We'll see you in a year.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Over a
need a
year.
motion for that, though. We just,
Usually you do a motion to authorize the town clerk to send a TE9.
all right, then let's do
All right, so
that.
I'll make a motion to authorize the clerk to send a TE9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Thank you, Sarah.
And sometime next year, we'll get an answer.
So when Sarah emailed me, I go, I think we just did that. It was
Yeah.
like 6 years ago. Oh my gosh. So actually, it was 7 years ago. It took them a year before we heard back from them. So, all right, I don't have anything because we've had a lot tonight. So I think we need a
Motion to go into
motion to
executive session
I'm gonna
for
motion
attorney-client privilege.
I'll second it.
Yay,
Who made the
good
first?
for you.
You made the first. I'll make the
You made it
second.
first? Okay,
I'll make
second.
the second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good. Let's do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, everybody, come back in.
Halloween styles with these ghosts.
Yeah. And then we'll just need a
Oh,
motion to
Are you
adjourn. All right, again, I don't have anything else. I think we've done executive session, so.
Are we squared away? Allison, we're back.
All right, so make a
Make a motion to adjourn.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Surprisingly short for the size of the agenda.
Well, and I
Very
said
good.
that the bulk of it's good.